Hi queers, I'm January or Scratch. I'm an artist, a 2D animator, a character and costume designer, and a million more things. In this video, I'll be redesigning WoW characters. This is a big project consisting of redesigning 18 characters and putting them into 5 groups. So this will be a 5-episode series, and in a video, I will be focusing on one group. This series consists of the Betrayed, the Alliance plus Rathion, Thrall's Fanclub, the Family Horde, and the Traditional Horde. I tried to stay as close to the original as possible while remaking and fixing the glaring issues with some of the characters' designs, and I only did characters I was passionate about. I split them into groups intentionally to show more of their personality and the dynamics and chemistry between them and other characters. So in this video, I will be drawing Thrall, Jaina, and Baine. Okay, third episode everybody. So this video will be a little different from the last two because I actually won't be delving into rewriting these three so much. Why? Well, you will see. You might have caught on from the last episode. If you haven't watched it, go watch it, but I am not an Alliance liker. So if you're one of those people that believes the conflict between the Alliance and the Horde is forced, I have news for you, friend. So let me tell you my story with World of Warcraft and how it actually helped me stabilize my worldview. This game, like many other media, is entirely based on real life, and that was part of the reasons why I liked it so much. Because it gives platform to a whole lot of real things, like different cultures, community, beautiful natural environments and the struggles around them, clashing of morals, conflict between nations, oppression, and found family. And because of the WoW community's opinions on the game's lore and story, I naturally got influenced by them before I knew too much. So for context, I haven't played anything beyond Vanilla, TBC and Wrath of the Lich King. However, even when first playing these expansions, I knew almost nothing. I only learned that this game even had a story after I reached level 80. I thought it was just an awesome world building game that gave you the opportunity to explore the world and customize your own little made up story. And I thought that the beloved characters that I knew of, Arthas, Thrall, Sylvanas, Tyrande, and others were just little references to Warcraft 3. And because I knew Warcraft 3 was entirely a story game, I hadn't played it and I knew very little of the story, but I've known of its existence since I was like 5, and that's why I thought World of Warcraft had nothing to do with the characters, and it was just the world. And I thought they just included the characters as NPCs just for fun. Obviously, I learned later on that I had been playing this game fully oblivious to the reality of it. So after that, I got interested in the lore and I read a lot of things. And like that, through reading other people's views on the game and not seeing it for myself, I took a lot of the community's opinions for granted. If everybody is saying it, it must be true, right? Oh my. So I was left with the impression that the Alliance and the Horde conflict was a devastating misunderstanding and a cycle of abuse equally from both sides. I was like, oh man, the orcs did attack the humans first, but the humans couldn't have known that they were being mind controlled. And so their hatred is founded, but it's so sad. And like the goober I am, I thought that if the orcs were mind controlled, that means they don't remember, right? And so even worse, now these humans are attacking them, but they did absolutely nothing wrong to them. And so I thought it was just a huge misunderstanding that both sides were right, and it was just the sad reality of language barriers and injustice. See how for 3 seconds I made this story 7 times deeper? Anyway, that is obviously not what the story is. So Vichar and Riven played through Retell themselves later, thinking it was going to be so much better than the previous expansions, thinking surely the people are just complaining about it because they're nostalgic. There's no way a game in 2018 is better than the one of 2004, surely, right? Well, no. By the way, you can go watch their playthrough on their channel, I'll link it in the description. It is extremely entertaining and it's very representative of how I felt too. Plus, I do appear and we have long in-depth discussions about these things as well. We also played Warcraft 3 after, and that gave even more perspective and context to everything. So seeing all of that first person, I realized a lot of things. First of all, as I said, this game is based on real life. People love pretending that fictional stories are just fictional and not inspired or directly taken from reality. Everybody keeps complaining about things always having to turn political, but that's a whole load of bullshit. Everything is political. Your life and my life are political, and if somebody disagrees, they're just privileged enough to not feel it. It has always been political. And so I finally realized what the target audience of this franchise is. Because of the amount of content there is in this game, it inevitably gave platform to a lot of good things as well, and so I was blinded by those good things. But I finally saw what gaze these concepts were viewed through. And to say it with the game's term, it was written through the perspective of a white human paladin man of noble blood. Call it Anduin or Tyrallion if you prefer. This game was made to be a humans versus monsters deal. It was about how the cultured ones, in quotations, victoriously keep winning and fighting against the more primitive ones, in quotations. For fuck's sake, the humans are based on medieval Western European culture, while the Horde is based on multiple native cultures of America, of Africa, probably others I'm not aware of too. That was the inherent concept. And some characters, for example Sylvanas and Illidan, literally just wrote themselves, because believe me, I have seen enough of the creators of this game to know most of their beliefs and morals, and the fact that they didn't understand or mean the things they gave light to. WoW entirely wrote the real world, how it views everything, how it works, and even how it evolves. And because I've never been in spheres like that personally, insane, supremacist, toxic man spaces, I obviously knew and have seen them, but I was never directly involved. I hadn't truly comprehended a lot of things till then. And so seeing that stuff in the game myself appalled me. It showed me reality just as it is. Because all these characters are somebody's self-inserts or a blatant show of their beliefs. And so this stinky human warrior that gives you a quest worded with extremely racist connotations to do immoral and disgusting things is just a real guy. And it's not even hard to catch on seeing how they're not even creative with their fantastical world building. To tell you honestly, this game is one of the main things that radicalized me. When I first got into it, I was thinking, nah, I can't understand WoW lore too well, it's too deep with terms I don't understand, and so long, I can't get into it. Also, surely because everybody is in unison on this opinion, it must be right. And also it has war in it, that's just horrible, I am really not interested. Once I got into the lore, I realized, oh well, it's not even that deep. It is quite flat and one-dimensional. The solution to so many problems and conflicts is so easy. Why is it made out to be so dramatic? I wonder. Then I experienced the story firsthand and I saw, what the fuck, people are insane, that's literally not what happened, and everybody is crazy for agreeing. And then I saw that that's no misunderstood conflict, it's just racism, it's just misogyny, it's just discrimination. It's man-made concepts stemming from the hunger for power, supremacy, and the need to hurt and destroy. There is a clear united oppressor and many oppressed. Just like reality, everything I just said applies to the real world. And don't get me wrong, I knew all of these things in detail thoroughly even before this, but seeing it so personally, having the connection to these characters, putting a name and a face to these concepts is what radicalized me that hard, because these evil concepts do have a face and a name. That's why art is so important, that's why empathy is so important. Everybody has the responsibility to educate themselves, and I urge everybody to look up things themselves. Stop reinforcing what's accepted, what the status quo is. Think for yourself and question everything. Learn the truth. Stop settling and be the change you want to see. And yeah, this game isn't for me. It's made for and by toxic men. But there is no space for me. Everything is taken by these people. And I've never felt accepted, represented, or comfortable in any community. So I'm making it, and I'm taking it. I'm reclaiming it, and I'm inviting people like me to my platform, where we can have fun and make a change. So, to get back to this piece and how it connects with what I want to say about these characters, I didn't care a singular bit to rewrite them. To some of you it might be obvious why by now, but if not, I will explain. Let's start with Thrall. Now that I've played through Warcraft 3 as well, it is obvious Thrall is nothing like what he used to be. Thrall used to be an inspiring orc leader. Now he's a complicit alliance toe-sucker. So let's analyze his character. He grew up with his freedom taken away by the humans, and he was raised entirely under them. He stood up for himself and his people, and he managed to free them and to create a space, the Horde, for all types of oppressed people to band together and help each other. He is an orc that others admire and respect. That is extremely inspiring and honorable. Because of the fact that he grew up with humans over him, he understands them very well. And in the story, they show that to be his speciality as a diplomat. And that is shown to be a reason to praise him and a reason to look down on other orcs that aren't diplomatic in quotations like him. This has been an issue since the beginning, for example with Grom, but then it gets worse. Thrall didn't grow up with his culture, he learned it despite his awful circumstances. He got colonized, and that is obviously not his fault, but that is also not something to be praised. The fact that he was forced to understand white men is very sad. But it is the reality. And yeah, it is great that he found a way to take power in that and to use it to his and his people's advantage. It is amazing, in fact. But that doesn't make him any better or any worse than the orcs around him, that got raised by their culture and in their land with no human influence. So later on, this becomes the one and only character trait Blizzard focuses on, and that's how Thrall becomes the Alliance man as we know him today. I thought we would stop at erasing his character and making him but a mere tool for the plot and just a distant reference because they love doing that to their original Warcraft characters, but I thought wrong. Nope, they completely butchered his initial idea and evolve him into a really bad person. By the way, can we talk about the war within for a second? If you haven't been convinced by now about the Alliance and Horde situation and the author's obvious bias, please think about the main cast for this expansion for a second. For fuck's sake, they made Thrall's armor blue! Not only that, but Thrall is the only good, in quotations, war chief that the Horde ever gets. I guess with the exception of Vol'jin, whose leadership lasted literally 2 days. Every non-Thrall leader is shown as a maniacal, monstrous supremacist that gets completely dismissed morally, while the Alliance leaders, on the other hand, are all shown as heroes. Doesn't that sound familiar? Thrall used to be a good soul that did a lot of great and admirable things, but after a cataclysm, he becomes an asshole. Also, I love that the game pretends he is oh so wise and also the bigger person for having alliance friends and being able to peacefully communicate with them. No, he is an awful, complicit individual. He ignores all the Horde blood on his so-called friends' hands in favor of not discomforting them. That's evil. That's him taking his stance. He stands with the bloodshed entirely by tolerating these people. And up to a point, Thrall's behavior can be excused, because he is and was the oppressed one, and he was colonized and manipulated to think, to condone, and to act like a human. He is not at fault for that. But as much as there isn't a timer on healing and changing as a person, he is more than grown and educated enough to understand these things. And he has done a lot of damage. And if he wasn't a person in power, he might have twisted beliefs, but without the power he can't truly hurt anybody, so it wouldn't be that big of a problem. But Thrall is the Horde leader. He has an immense amount of power and influence, both to his people and just in general. He is just another example of a person that got oppressed, had a fighting spirit, and then that fighting spirit went into the wrong direction and it turned into power thirst. So he became a selfish man that strokes the ego of other men to get to that power. And that's where my empathy stops for him. Everybody is under this horrible system. Even men are oppressed by it. It's not admirable that you are able to get to power while being oppressed. It's ugly. That's precisely what the system is designed to do, to turn the abused into abusers. The other thing I wanted to address is how his guilt was treated. First of all, I will explore the Garrosh situation in the Garrosh episode, but Thrall was entirely responsible for putting Garrosh in the position of power. The fact that after the whole ordeal he was oh so sad and oh so guilty that he's to blame only shows me exactly how aware the authors of this are. They're well aware that he's done bad things, and so they don't know how to deal with his guilt. So they comfort Thrall and they make a feel-good healing arc for him. We can also see that trend in Dragonflight, which was just a huge family therapy session for tyrants. This is not something to heal. I'm sick of abusers victimizing themselves and their guilt being disguised as oppression. Thrall should feel guilty. He did horrible things. Leaving the Horde, putting Garrosh in charge, then killing Garrosh immorally, killing innocent Ogrimmar guards to save Baine, siding with the Alliance, and more I can't think of right now. Instead of being a self-deprecating loser, he should do something for the people he hurt however he can. He should stop being so selfish and think about how to fix his mistakes and not heal in quotations from them. After he does everything he can to right his wrongs, then he can talk about guilt, healing, and forgiveness. This fully applies to Anduin, by the way, except he is the white privileged light worshipping man with the most power. I go in depth rewriting his character in the previous episode, and I don't talk too much about him in the canon, but when it comes to one character I dislike the most in WoW, it probably is Anduin, then it's all the rest. Thrall is now just an Alliance fan and it is very pitiful. Also, it's extremely hilarious that he is the only Horde character, like, at all. They got rid of Cairn, Kel'Thas, Vol'jin, Garrosh, and now Sylvanas is gone doing community service in the mall. He's simply the only representative of the Horde that the game cares about, and from being the maker of the Horde, he became the most un-Horde Horde character. As for Jaina, okay, so Jaina is a bit more complicated of a character than Thrall, and she's both much better than him and worse than him. First of all, she's a woman that has suffered through a lot. On the other hand, she's a human in power that has done many explicitly evil things. To establish, WoW sucks at writing women, and precisely because of that there is like 5 women in this franchise. Jaina is an unbelievably skilled mage that has been personally wronged by Arthas, by her father, and who not. She, unlike Thrall, had much more of a chance to have a redemption arc and improve as a person. WoW though obviously saw nothing wrong with her actions, and so they made her go through the same guilt healing arc. To be brief, her worst moments that are unexcusable being the Dalaran purge, almost flooding Ogrimmar, and killing Rastakhan and his fleet. She is also extremely fucking OP. You're telling me it's fair that the Forsaken, for example, worked day and night for at least a few months to come up with a plague, gather natural resources, and then make it to defend themselves against the Alliance, or the Trolls hand-making their wooden armor that doesn't cover even half of their bodies, and then fucking Jaina comes with a fucking levitating ship, saving Anduin, Gen, Alleria, and the whole Alliance army's asses, and then teleporting them out of there? No, the fuck it isn't fair. And that's the point. This game has never been fair because it's based on real life. Also, not to talk about the amount of times Jaina single-handedly saves multiple characters and carries a battle. That's why I laughed my ass off when I first heard Anduin call her auntie. First of all, because that's so painfully American. But also because, yeah, he sees her as the auntie that saves his ass all the time. What do you mean he was ready to risk all his army for no reason if it wasn't for Jaina coming out of the blue to rescue them in Lordaeron? She is ridiculously OP. And I suspect that might be cringy Blizzard pretending to be feminist and thinking that this is the way to balance the fact that there's only 2 women in this game. So, why I'm saying Jaina had more of a chance to be a better person than Thrall is because of a few reasons. She is a woman. She's been through a very specific type of oppression that has taught her a lot of things that Thrall hasn't been through, both because he's a man, but also because of orc culture. First of all, she knows empathy and love. I like to think anybody watching my videos knows how misogyny works and I don't need to explain it, but to make my point crystal clear. Women and girls in society are forcefully raised to know how to be mothers and wives, and that requires them to know very fundamental things like love and empathy that men are not raised with. Jaina has also been manipulated like any other woman to need a male partner to be a valid human being, and that in translation means her loving is the point of her existence. That means she understands those emotions very well. The reason she knows them and the way she's been taught them are in no way whatsoever good, and even though she has a lot of trauma with these feelings, she still has them in her core. And another reason being Thrall's culture. Orc culture is all about fighting in honor. They don't treasure lives the way humans do, which alone is not a bad thing, but it's the fact that they're so battle-centric that's the problem. He's been raised with the mindset of being a warrior and dying in battle, while she, as a human woman, doesn't have this worldview. Thrall is used to fighting. He finds violence normal, while she doesn't, and in that way she doesn't have to go through uninternalizing and unlearning these particular concepts the way Thrall needs to. So she understands love and empathy, and that's why she steps ahead Thrall in her journey of becoming a better person. And I'm not saying that Thrall can't. Anybody can become a good person if they want to. But Thrall wasn't really shown to be heading in that direction. Well, at least in my eyes, it seemed that Jaina was. But that does not happen, and WoW makes it a point to solidify her as a bad person and to destroy my hopes and dreams. I used to love Jaina, but I have completely given up on her. As for Baine, I really desperately wanted to like him. He's the Tauren chieftain! My main is a Tauren. I love Tauren! Well, the story said fuck you in particular. Scratch, this guy is more human than he will ever be Tauren. Little bracket, see how I keep saying humans? That's because humans in WoW are just humans, self-inserts, they're the real life people, and that's on bad fantasy writing. WoW completely failed to write Baine, because they don't understand the Tauren and also because they can't write for shit. And because for them, he's not an important character, he doesn't really have a personality. And so I just wished he was a good Tauren representative at least. What are the Tauren like? They're a tribe worshipping nature, and their lifestyle is entirely based on being natural. They're honorable and just. They're peacekeepers. But they also know when to protect themselves if needed. They're the gentle giants. Well, Baine, first of all, is nothing like his father. How the fuck did he turn out like this with Cairn raising him? He has barely been shown to love nature, he's very aggressive, and he's way too quick to fight and kill when convenient. While other times he's fully passive even though his people are in danger and the situation desperately requires action. He's also so petty. Why is he so petty? To be brief with his wrongdoings, killing the Forsaken on the ship while sabotaging Sylvanas' plan because he prioritized not letting Jaina's already dead brother get mind-controlled in quotations over a whole ship of his own people's lives. Being passive when Garrosh was doing all of what he did, following Thrall blindly, and being Anduin's friend should definitely count. And these three together form what I like to call Anduin's Horde. To be honest, Saurfang was the founder, but we'll get to him too. These three characters are disguised as their own separate cultures, but in reality they all act like alliance human men. And with BFA and Anduin conquering the Horde consensually, they form Anduin's Horde. As you can see, I said for all three of these characters that they're badly written. That's because they are, first of all, but also because they're oppressed people with culture. And corporations can't write through the POV of such people at all. And because of that, they got me completely unimmersed, and instead of talking about the characters in the story, here I am talking about the authors. So that's why I don't like these characters, and I have no inspiration to rewrite them. If you saw something in them though, whether if it was there or not, and you resonated with them, that's perfectly understandable. But you need to be aware of what is there and what isn't, and if the thing that isn't there and you made up contradicts the original, you need to be conscious of it. The same way I was with Anduin, I saw something in him that really isn't there, it was just me and my vision that I was seeing, so I just kinda made up my own character with the inspiration of the original. Have fun with your imagination and art, but be careful to separate it from the reality of it, because these things have real life connotations. Same way I did with Gen and Shaw, I will throw brief ideas of how to write these characters better. For Thrall, I think it would have been great for them to commit to representing him as a bad person, where the Horde gets to have an inner betrayal of the person that made this safe space for them, leave them and become what he was initially fighting against, where we explore the Horde dealing with the consequences of his actions. But if he were to become a good person, it would have been nice to have him have an arc how it was initially designed, where he gets to delve deep into his culture. He gets to to re-raise himself and unlearn and decolonize his mind. And then to continue evolving orc culture, because culture is there to be useful. If it has harmful traditions that no more work at the time being, they should be let go. Culture is ever evolving and it's there to tend to the needs of its people. As for Jaina, I'd explore her as a misguided woman trying to punch up, where she fights because she was forced to stay silent. She gets to power because it was taken from her, where her actions all come from trying to rebel, but in the wrong direction. And that could end in two ways, her just becoming a horrible, power-hungry human man, or similarly to what I did with Anduin, if she were to become a good person and have a good life, she would have to realize that she needs to get out of her society. And that's not possible. So if she were to genuinely heal and learn, she would have to start a revolution, which Blizzard obviously wouldn't want. As for Baine, I would explore his struggles with neutrality, where he desperately tries to not pick sides and avoid conflict when he can, but the more he tries, the more radical he gets, and that either means he becomes immune, uncaring, apathetic to the suffering, and he just strives to be comfortable himself, or he realizes that silence will always mean picking a side. So instead, he learns how to really weigh his priorities and morals, and becomes a better leader with a better moral compass. However, I found this drawing idea really funny and I couldn't resist making it. Also, it gave me a reason to talk about all of these topics. So, you've been watching this gorgeous piece for a bit now, let me introduce you to it. This drawing is entirely a reference to the Bicep Touch. There is no way you don't know about the Bicep Touch, but if you don't, let me explain, because it's an important cinematic. So we have Jaina teleporting the unofficial Anduin Horde on a hill next to Thunderbluff and they're talking. The setting is dramatic and inspirational and all characters are tired. Thrall stands next to Jaina and thanks her for saving Baine. Then he proceeds to confess all his evil deeds while sad music is playing. Jaina joins his self-victimizing club and comforts him by saying they're all abusers and horrible people. Thrall gets deeply delusional and he fantasizes baselessly about Sylvanas burning Thunderbluff like a huge weirdo. He realizes they're both the problem. He turns to Jaina asking her what's different this time, and then we get a prolonged shot of Jaina touching his bicep femininely saying we are. Baine, Sourfang and Shaw join them and Jaina startles as if they were caught kissing, saying she should go. Sad motivational music intensifies, they all look at each other inspirationally and Sourfang officially forms the Anduin Horde. Jaina then teleports, leaving Shaw alone in Thunderbluff. So this cinematic was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, and I decided to honor this legendary bicep touch with this piece. I made Baine join them though, because let's be honest, if WoW wasn't misogynistic and homophobic, he would have romantically, platonically, inspirationally also touched his bicep. And that is how this drawing came to be. So even though I really dislike these characters, I had a lot of fun drawing them. So let's talk about the redesigning. But before that, drink some water and relax. So, last episode I said Rathion is the only curly-haired character in this franchise. Not only that, but he's also the only dark-skinned person too. WoW has a horrible diversity problem and most of their humanoid characters have white skin, straight blonde hair and blue eyes. So I really wanted to change that, but I didn't want to stay too far from the originals. So I decided to make Baine have curly hair and brown eyes, because I had the most freedom with his redesign. Exploring the freedom of fantasy customization is very fun, and I love it. But if it's in the wrong hands, it can become very malicious. I think the Tauren's design is particularly problematic because of the real-life inspiration behind their culture. The fact that they're so inhuman makes me very uncomfortable, and I think no good comes out of these designs. If there was a point to be made here, some kind of symbolism or exaggeration, like how it is with the Forsaken, I wouldn't have minded. But what is the reason of them being cow people? What does that symbolize or hint at? Nothing. It reeks of racism. So you'll see in the next episode as well, I redesigned the trolls, the orcs, but mainly the Tauren, and instead of having such an inhuman and animalistic base, they have subtle fantasy characteristics, the same way elves, for example, do. In that way, it's much more similar to how ethnic features work in real life, where all people are quite similar but quite different as they come from their respective nations, and it's fantasyfied here with all types of colors and slight exaggerations. So I kept the orcish features of having an underbite, with the bottom teeth being exposed. I made them have their shorter noses, the green skin, and the pointy ears. For the Tauren, I kept the inspiration of bulls, mainly as a symbol for being physically big and strong people with grounded and heavy beliefs, but I grandly humanized them. I kept their big hooves, the three-fingered hands, the horns and the downturned ears. Specifically for Baine, I kept the gradient-like coloration of his skin, and as I said, I changed his eyes from red to brown and I made his hair curly. So when it comes to the poses, I wanted to show exactly what they're like in the canon, and obviously poke fun at them a little. We have Thrall being all nonchalant, flexing for these two, pretending he works out a little bit to have such muscles and letting them touch his biceps, even though he's definitely non-stop training and exercising daily in the human gym to be this shredded, but he pretends it's genetics. So if you're not educated, fast lesson on working out and health. It's extremely taxing on the body to be in this shape, it is also very unsustainable, it's entirely a phase and it can't be kept up. So this type of gym men you see everywhere are in a non-stop cycle of achieving this look and then going back to a different shape. There is many ways to train safely and going to the gym isn't a problem inherently. However, it has become a very toxic culture and I chose to represent it because all male characters in WoW have this unrealistic body. And also because Thrall definitely hits me as this type of guy. Even so, I still made his body look realistic, functional, and fucking hydrated, please drink some water, where he is equally muscular everywhere and a bit thicker because every shredded character in media is even more exaggerated where their muscles have muscles on top of them. Another silly thing I did, even though Thrall has a belt that goes entirely around his waist, I made it low-waisted and thin. Another quick insight on toxic male culture, that's because the perfect male body in quotations, the same way with the perfect female body in quotations, is entirely accompanied by the clothes. Men always wear extremely low-waisted pants because it makes their torsos look longer and it shows the V-line, which is a very fetishized feature, to look manly. And I obviously had to take off his top even though he has one, as I committed to the full man aesthetic. I would love to explain and get into detail of dismantling sexism, gender, sex, femininity and masculinity, but I won't do so here because the video will get really long. Putting a little bracket as well, if you're a gym person or just struggling with self-esteem or with societal standards, I want you to know you're beautiful in all of your phases and eras. Take care of yourself physically and mentally and keep reminding yourself that all of these norms are a big load of shit. You are stunning. I made Thrall like 188 because I do imagine the orcs to be generally bigger, but also because surely no short man from a marginalized group could get so much white man approval. As for Jaina, so I kept everything of Jaina's design, I absolutely adore it, except I made her 176 with a broader frame because the Cotirans are shown to be on the taller and bigger side. Same way with men, the bodies of female characters in WoW and media are even worse when it comes to realism and they're heavily sexualized. I kept Jaina's general hourglass proportions because I want to show that any type of body exists and deserves appropriate representation without being fetishized or sexualized. But the same way with Thrall, I made them both look realistic. I kept all of her facial features as well as the makeup, and if it weren't for the braid, I imagine her hair to be wavy. As for Baine, he's a Tauren and I wanted to keep the gentle giant nature of them, so Baine is around 2 meters. I also really enjoyed drawing and designing his body. He's a warrior but visible muscles don't equal strength, so I didn't give him definition. I find it even funnier that Baine is probably as strong if not stronger than Thrall and he's bigger than him, yet he's still stroking his ego. This is something I've really wanted to talk about. In the original design he doesn't have a top, but I decided to give him one. As I said, I am ungazing things in my art and I want to represent them as they are. That's why I drew Thrall to conform to societal standards even though I don't agree with them, because it is real. For that reason, a lot of the cultures in WoW I am making to not be sexist, and I'm representing them accordingly. The Taurens is one of them. Chests, like any other feature, are not sexual, and in today's society, women's chests are entirely forced to be covered up, while men's ones aren't, even though they are literally the same thing. That is very ugly. So in my art, I will either have all wear tops or all will be topless. And I purposefully chose which cultures to cover their chests, which ones to not, and which ones to keep as sexist, like the stinky humans. All giggles towards Thrall aside, I imagine orc culture to not be sexist either. He just turned out like this because of human influence. So in my version, orcs don't wear a lot of clothes and are usually topless. By the way, the other character I purposefully kept topless was Illidan, for similar reasons of night elf culture having more revealing clothes and him struggling with societal standards as well. But yeah, you already know there really isn't a lot of female characters in WoW, so I didn't even get the chance to represent something like that, but I still wanted to mention it. I called this piece Thrall's Fanclub because Jaina and Baine seem to be his biggest fans. I was considering calling it Anduin's Horde, but I decided against it because first of all, Sourfang formed it and he's not here because I grandly rewrote him. And second of all, because Anduin is not here, and that's the point of Anduin's Horde, that it's Anduin that's leading it and Thrall is just the pretend leader that strokes his ego. But I decided as much as Thrall is an alliance toe-sucker, he deserves to be honored with being the focus of his own piece. I usually focus on good things in my personal art, but I really wanted to shine some light on characters I don't like and explain why. These three are bad people, but they're also badly written, and it's important to note where the writing lacks in quality. This episode was much less about rewriting, but I wanted to address the canon, share my own experience, and talk about a few topics. Plus, it is quite an amusing drawing I made. I'm really happy with this piece, and yeah, its point is to be funny, but it's still gorgeous, and I'm very happy with how I drew them, not only for the giggles. No matter how silly these characters are, I really love their designs, and representing them visually with my own flavor was an amazing experience. The art team on WoW almost never misses, and they deserve a lot of praise, because it's them, the voice actors, and parts of the community that's saving the their dookie game. I'm so happy with this drawing, I can't put into words how much I've learned from this project and how proud I am of myself. So here's the final piece. I hope you learned something from this video, got inspired by it, or simply had fun, because I certainly did. So thank you for watching, and you can share your thoughts in the comments. Also, please, if you enjoyed it, let me know, share it with your friends, engage somehow, because I keep getting recommended to men and it's very discouraging. Even though I know you guys, the sweet people with empathy and morals that love art and I'm trying to reach, are out there. So like, subscribe, and you can support me and my indie team on Patreon. Link is in the description. I advise you watch Vihar and Riven's retell playthrough. It's very enjoyable and very educational. You can also check out our other projects. We have a cover of Daughter of the Sea. We have a 2D animated by me trailer based on Riven's fantasy book. We have another 3D project modeled by Vihar that is very cute and cozy. And we have a lot of things in the works. Having fun is very important, but so is education. Keep raising awareness about Palestine, Congo, Sudan. Talk and research about the important things. Educate yourself and the ones around you. Help however you can. We need to make a change. It is of utmost priority that we use our voice, our power to stop this brutal system and treat each other with respect and empathy. Knowledge is love. Bye bye! Jaina. As for Baine, who is Baine? Fully oblivious to the reality. What the fuck is a reality?